c'est bon.
Welcome to Paris, Good Food and Wine. I'm your host, Paige Donner. For the next half hour, I'll be presenting to you news, happenings, and personalities from Paris's extraordinary culinary world. So sit back and get ready to enjoy a full half hour of Paris, good food, and wine.
Like those French people do, because it's oh so good.
In tribute to last month's announcement that both Burgundy and Champagne are now included as UNESCO World Heritage cultural sites, I'm running interviews on this topic that previously aired on this show and its predecessor, World of Wine. Each interview is with key proponents of these initiatives from each region. The first segment is a rebroadcast from my World of Wine show featuring two spokesmen from Champagne discussing their region's UNESCO World Heritage Site inclusion. That first aired in the fall of 2013. The second is with Guillaume D'Angerville, who worked closely with Aubert de Villaine and the rest of their team to accomplish this welcomed news for Burgundy, namely their inclusion as a recognized World Heritage Cultural Site by UNESCO. Next, we'll be hearing a bit of a business slant to being a successful boulanger here in France. Cult baker Gontran Cherrier, his team speaks to us about exporting their bakery concept to Asia. Gontran Cherrier is a regular on the popular French TV show Best Baker of France on the M6 channel. And to round off, Alec Lebrano joins us again to talk about Shangri-La's gastronomic French dining restaurant, L'Abeille. The Shangri-La, located in the 16th arrondissement, is one of Paris's exquisite palace hotels. So, stay with us for this latest episode of Good Food and Wine, with me, your host and producer, Paige Donner. This is the World of Wine, your weekly update on news from the world of wine in Paris.
I love Paris.
In 2014, two of France's celebrated wine regions may be on their way to joining the ranks of the exclusive international club that is UNESCO World Heritage Sites. They are Burgundy and Champagne. Both of these wine regions in France each produce famous namesake wines that are often even more well-known than the regions from which they come. Champagne, for instance, is a term at times misused for sparkling wines. But in fact, Champagne is the region in France from which this particular wine originates, a wine that evolved over the past several hundred years to have characteristic bubbles. In other words, Champagne only comes from Champagne. Pierre-Yves Canjou, the Champagne industry's first regional ambassador, appointed in 2005, says,
I think Champagne is very famous, but Champagne as wine. And this designation will, I hope, help people to want to come in Champagne and to see really the Champagne vineyard. Not only drinking champagne, but discovering Champagne vineyard, Champagne villages, Champagne cities as Reims or Épernay. I hope more and more people all over the world will come to discover the region.
The same rich cultural history is true of Burgundy. Burgundian wines have a heritage going back thousands of years. The Burgundy Côte is the only vineyard in the world to have constantly upheld the identity of its climats over some 2,000 years. This notion of climats, specific to Burgundy, designates each plot or group of plot of vines which have been known under the same name for several centuries. In both Burgundy and Champagne, each wine region evidences a work created together by man and nature and is a worldwide model of terroir. Moreover, the spirit of the place and the human work carried out are created on a durable basis. The spokesperson for the CIVC in Champagne explains it this way.
My name is Thibault Lemaillou. I'm the communications director of Comité Champagne, known as Champagne Bureau all over the world. The Champagne region is applying to the UNESCO World Heritage as a cultural landscape. This means that it's not a beauty contest. It's not about the landscape itself. It's about the interaction between nature, the original landscape, and mankind over the centuries.
And Kenju points out,
the first reason of this designation is to consider Champagne vineyard as really something exceptional in the world. Perhaps as a special region, and I don't know, the Grand Canyon or something like that.
in Burgundy, it is the climats that the region is submitting for UNESCO World Heritage candidacy. In Champagne, it is the Coteaux, Maison et Cave de Champagne.
The name of the candidacy is Coteaux, Maison et Cave de Champagne, which means the vineyards, the houses and buildings, and of course the historical landmarks, and the cellars and the chalk cellars called the Cherrier in Reims as well. However, the candidacy is not about Champagne wines or Champagne vineyards, it's about the whole winemaking region as an economical, social, historical ecosystem. So the 319 villages are all included within the candidacy.
The first step towards the UNESCO designation is for France to choose their two candidates to put forward to the international organization. This year, both Champagne and Burgundy are crossing their fingers that 2014 will be their year to represent France for this prestigious designation. Final inclusion would allow them to join the ranks of the other UNESCO World Heritage wine regions, which are Saint-Emilion, Tocage, the Douro, and Lavaux. The designation qualifies the site as being unique in the world, of exceptional and universal value, the existence and transmission of which are valuable for humanity.
Get there with imagination. I'll get there with imagination. I'll get there.
Next up, we'll be hearing their perspective from Burgundy. Here at the Collège de Bernardin in Paris's heart of the Latin Quarter, sitting with the Deputy President, Guillaume D'Angerville, Monsieur Guillaume D'Angerville. And he's the Deputy President of the Climat de Bourgogne. And what's so relevant about this is that it's being decided right now, their World Heritage, their UNESCO World Heritage candidacy. So when your team put forward the dossier to the UNESCO, you chose the category of culture. Can you please explain why you chose that category and what the relevance of that is?
Sure, thank you very much for the opportunity. We decided to apply as a cultural site, and the reason for this is because we want to emphasize that Burgundy is all about interaction between nature and man. It's not just the landscape. The landscape is obviously very beautiful in Burgundy, but the history of Burgundy and the winemaking model that we have built there is the story of man interacting with that nature. Nowhere else in the world has man been so precise in identifying an agricultural production, a wine, to the place where the wine is actually produced. So what we are talking about, the Climat de Bourgogne, as you mentioned them, what we are talking about here is a mosaic of very tiny plots of lands, parcels of land, which are very clearly identified and named, and have been named for 1,000 years for most of them. And today, each of those specific plots of land produces a specific wine that bears a specific name. And this is what we are trying to share with the world. We're not trying to share just our landscape, which is beautiful, but we need to share also what is behind this, the cultural aspect of it, the Burgundy culture, 2,000 years of history, because the first vineyard was found in our area dated 100 years post Jesus Christ, so almost 2,000 years ago. And this iterative process that took over 1,000 years for sure to identify each piece of land with a specific wine. So not just the landscape, but the culture behind the landscape and interaction between man and nature.
Now, your team, once again, your team, the Climat Bourgogne, you arranged this fabulous conference that's been taking place the last 2 days here, the heritage value of terroir-based economies as model of human development. And it's become very clear what a UNESCO World Heritage designation can bring to a territory such as a region such as Burgundy or the Colombian coffee growers region, the Ylang-Ylang region in the Comores. But what does the designation of World Cultural Heritage Site, UNESCO, when it's designated to Burgundy, what does it bring to the world?
Well, the whole purpose of the World Heritage List is to protect sites, the destruction of which would be a loss to humanity. Okay, the outstanding universal value, that's the definition by UNESCO of outstanding universal value. If that piece of land, Burgundy, was to be damaged or destroyed, it would be a loss to humanity as a whole. And the whole purpose of our long search towards the World Heritage List is precisely because we Burgundians would like to share with the rest of the world not only our landscape, like I said earlier, but also our culture, our history, our winemaking model. We're very keen on that, and we want, perhaps also because wine is such a convivial product, we would like to share this with the rest of the world. And it's a very complex region to understand because of those specificities, the very small pieces of land that produce separate wines. So it needs work to understand. And we want the World Heritage List to help us share that with the rest of the world. And of course, as part of our commitment to UNESCO, we will indeed make sure that we share our knowledge with foreigners, with tourists that will come to the region. And we intend to organize special areas, places, buildings where people will be taught how Burgundy works and how the winemaking model of Burgundy can be applied. And that's what we intend to share with the rest of the world. And of course, by the way, you should know that Burgundy today already is a winemaking model for other wine regions of the world. And today the purpose of this symposium is also to say that not only is wine a product that typically can be terroir based, but also there are other agricultural productions that share the same challenges and the same successes and also the same threats as Burgundy does. And you chose to speak about coffee, there's rice, there's tea, all of those terroir-based agricultural productions share the same challenges and successes.
Next, Alec Lebrano talks to us about L'Abbaye, the Palace Hotel Shangri-La's gastronomic French restaurant. So L'Abbaye is the gem of the newly designated Palace Hotel Shangri-La. Tell us a little bit about that. There's a new chef there.
There is a new chef. Christophe Moret started there a couple of months ago. Christophe was previously, he's a very distinguished cook. He was trained by Ducasse. Most recently, he was at La Serre, and before that, he cooked at the Restaurant Alain Ducasse at the Place Athénée. And now he's been brought over to L'Abbaye. And the name, of course, L'Abbaye means the bee in English, and it's a reference to the fact that the Shangri-La, the building of the Shangri-La was originally the palace built by I think it was the brother-in-law of Napoleon.
Have they changed the decor at all? Or is it just the menu? Has the whole kitchen been revamped?
No, the decor's pretty much stayed the same. But it's what's fascinating every once in a while with the chef change. I've known Christophe Moret's cooking for many years. He's an incredibly talented chef. This was, if you hadn't told me that it was Christophe Moret, I would never have guessed that this was his food. I mean, it is light, incredibly imaginative. I mean, it's almost luminescent. I had a starter that was absolutely extraordinary of sea urchin and crab meat on a and caviar on a crab meat flan, which is one of the most beautiful things I've eaten in many, many years. I mean, it was exactly what one wanted to start a meal with on that first night early night of spring-like weather. But the food was so delicate and intricate, and the flavor patterns were so elegantly stitched that I was surprised, because Christophe previously has been what I would say is kind of a very masculine cooking style, and this is so delicate and so fine, and it was exciting to discover that he has other deeper range. And I also think that he's been set free at the Shangri-La. The Shangri-La, I mean, it's as you said, Paige, it's a kid glove luxury hotel. So he has a substantial budget to buy the best produce in the city. The dining room staff is charming and incredibly alert. And it's just a pretty spectacular experience. You know, as we've talked about before, when you go out for an expensive meal, you do not want to make a mistake, because it's an investment. And so I went to the L'Abbaye with great curiosity, because people ask me so often, where should we go for a special meal in Paris? I would unhesitatingly send people to L'Abbaye. It's a charming, charming restaurant. It's good value for the money, too.
Is it even necessary to ask what the price range is, or is it like if you have to ask, you kind of shouldn't really go there?
It's not as, I mean, I'd say in the world of haute cuisine, as you and I know, depending on what you drink, it's very easy to spend 400 euros a person, which is a lot of money, no matter how you slice it out. At l'Abbaye, you can have a very nice meal for about 200 euros a person, which again is not cheap. But that experience, I mean, top of the mountain haute cuisine dining is not going to be cheap. There's a huge amount of labor that goes into creating this food and serving it with elegance and grace. So within the context of haute cuisine dining in Paris, l'Abbaye is actually very good value for the money.
Any attempt at a rating, or is it just kind of out of the scope of any sort of rating?
I would give l'Abbaye a solid A-. I think Christophe is getting off to a brilliant start. The other thing I'd mention specifically, there's a new pastry chef there, and there's a dessert that you shouldn't miss, which is a honeycomb-like pastry filled with honeycomb. Again, a reference to the Napoleonic symbol, which is the bee. And it is one of the most beautiful, visually beautiful and delicious desserts I've eaten in Paris in a long time. It comes to the table covered with little transparent gilded sugar bees. It's a pretty spectacular way to end a meal.
Oh, I want to see a picture of that. Thank you so much, Alec.
You're very welcome.
You're listening to Paris Good Food and Wine with me, your host, Paige Donner. Now, switching to our next topic, the business of bakeries. Luc Bajot and Robin de Blangy speak to us about taking baker Gontran Cherrier's concept bakeries into the Far East, and doing so very successfully. So I'm standing here at the very first bakery of superstar baker Gontran Cherrier, and we're right on Rue Kolenka, La Marque Kolenka, Rue Kolenka, in the 18th arrondissement, which is just in the shadows of the Butte Montmartre and this beautiful area. And I have with me the business partner of Gontran Cherrier, Luc Bajot. Can you just say a couple words, say hello to us?
Hi, my name is Luc Bajot. I'm Gontran's business partner for the last 4 years, and have participated to our first bakery in Rue Colinco, and since then we expanded quite a lot in France, but most of it in Asia, in Singapore, Japan, Korea, Australia, and China.
Well, we're going to hear a lot more about that expansion in just a moment. We have also with us the operations manager, Robin Dublangy. So Robin, say hello and tell us just a couple words about yourself.
Well, so hello, my name is Robin de Blanger in French, and so I'm the operations manager. I joined the team 6 months ago. I also worked for Gontran and Luc 2 years ago in Singapore, where I first met them. And well, actually, I majored in international business and international marketing. So, and I'm with them, helping them to develop the business. Yeah.
Now, it's very interesting to watch the evolution. This bakery here, your very first one, opened just 4 years ago. And now you're telling me that you're just in the middle of opening up the 20th bakery worldwide. Tell us a little bit about that expansion. And then also, how did you come to the business?
I've actually lived 20 years in Hong Kong, so I've kind of had quite a lot of contacts in Asia. And I joined Gontran actually, in fact, initially to develop Asia once we started our first bakery. So once we opened Colincourt, we use it like as a platform to show people what we were doing, and then people came to see us. And I had contacts in Singapore, so we opened our first bakery in Singapore, and that was the first of many, because actually afterwards our Japanese partner went to see Singapore and open as well, and then we opened in Korea. So because of my background of 20 years in Asia, we are very keen to open in Asia, and also we saw the very large potential of Asian people starting to change their habit, of their eating habit, and they started to eat a lot of bread and started to enjoy a lot of bakery, pastry. Actually, in fact, today we're making about 12,000 croissants per day in Japan, so we are very well known for the quality of our product. And Asian people have changed their habits, so now they have breakfast, they have bread, they have pastry, and so sandwiches, which it wasn't the case about 10 years ago. So there's a lot of potential still in Asia.
That's fascinating. And Robin, too, now you bring your experience of having worked in Asia yourself, in Singapore, to the business. Did you notice any kind of change in eating habits when you were in Singapore?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Asian people, they don't eat that much bread. So first of all, because in France we eat bread on a daily basis. But there they don't eat bread on a daily basis. And they also... There it's mostly on the having here. I mean, they eat and they spend time in our bakeries, and they eat their croissant with cutleries and everything. Here in France, it's more about takeaway. We take a pastry and we take it. So it's a really different the way they eat our products and the way they consume. It's pretty much different, yeah, indeed.
Well, one of the things that really drew me to your bakery and to find out a little bit more about Gontran Cherrier as a baker is the fact that you have miso bread and you have squid ink bread. Now, is that something that developed in Asia, or is that something that you developed here and took to Asia? I'll go back to you, Robin, and then I'll follow to Luc.
Well, actually, Gontran, this is exactly what our positioning is all about, because Gontran is not only about doing a French traditional bakery. It's about having a French traditional bakery mixed and combined with some international flavors. So when Gontran goes abroad, he likes to take back home and try some new combinations and everything. So basically, he brought back the miso from Japan, he brought back the shiso, and all of different flavors, yeah, many spices, yes.
So what kind of spices? Like what other things? And did you have any say in this, or is that all just the baker's creativity? Or
no, I didn't have any say into that. I mean, this is just. I mean, Gontran's background, even before we started this first bakery, was traveling a lot in Russia. He stayed a few months in Russia and elsewhere. So he has always had like this curiosity about going abroad and finding new tastes, new savors, and new spices. So as Robin said, it was like he always wants to try a new taste. And the advantage of now that we have bakeries in Korea and Japan is that he can actually spends there about he goes there 3 or 4 times a year and stays there and study new product and new assembly of product, and we all benefit from that. And all the bakeries around the world, when you go in Singapore, you can maybe taste a product from Japan or some product from Korea. And also the fact that he does this show on M6, he does this Meilleure Boulangerie de France that shows on TV every day. I mean, And he also has even different tastes in France that he can bring to our bakery as well. So we have international taste, and we have also different French tastes from all over France because of this show. So it's, we always try to bring curiosity to our customer. Every day they come, they say, oh, what shall I try? What's new product? And then they're always satisfied with the new taste.
There's kind of a bit of a thrust here domestically to reinvigorate French cuisine on an international scale, on an international screen. Now, you guys are already doing it, and you've been doing it now for 4 years, and you're just opening up another location in China this year. In Shanghai. So how do you find, I mean, obviously your success speaks for itself, but how do you find the receptivity of French baked goods and maybe even French cuisine in Asia? I mean, can you speak to that even more? Kind of what I'm going after is, the Ministry of Tourism is all about like gastro diplomacy now, like, sort of exporting even more French cuisine and making it more accessible to people who...
I think basically it's the fact that Asian people, when I came in Asia like 10, 15 years ago, nobody was traveling. Now you have Asian people all over the world that goes to restaurant. They have money also. They can spend money into restaurant, and they're becoming refined, and that's a new tendency. So when any Asian people come to Europe or to the US, they will look for new restaurant. They will look for new taste. And their curiosity and their purchasing power is increasing day by day. So actually, when they come back home, they want to see that again because they're now traveling, see what's cuisine there is all around the world, and there's beautiful cuisine now. And so when they come back home, they just want to see the same. They're becoming really tough on quality, on presentation, and because they're travelers like everyone now. So.
Oh, that's great. Robin, I see you nodding your head. Did you have something to add?
No, I mean, what he's saying is absolutely right. I mean, they are traveling and they're getting more and more used to good cuisine and good bakeries, and they want to have the good croissant at home. And I can see that on the social networks every day. On Instagram we have more than 10,000 posts on Instagram, because each and every day we have 20, 30s coming. Oh my God, it's so good, and it tastes like France, And this is what they want. They want to taste France at home. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
And they can make, as I said, they can make a difference now between a good croissant and a bad croissant. They would go to another baker and say, no, I don't like this. We're talking about Asia. Like when I was in Asia 15 years ago, there was no bakery, so very little. And now they go to their favorite bakeries because one has croissant, one has good baguette, and so on. So they're becoming French people abroad,
They have good taste now, huh? They know what's good. Well, I want to thank you both, Robin and Luc. I want to thank you very much.
Flash, bam.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Paris, Good Food and Wine. I'm your host and producer, Paige Donner, and a grand merci to the Good Food and Wine team. Paris, Good Food and Wine is brought to you in part by the generous support of FUSAC, Paris's English language website and community resource since 1988. Visit www.fusac.fr. And the show is also brought to you by the support of Paris Food and Wine. Visit us at parisfoodandwine.net. Thanks for joining us for this half hour of Paris, Good Food and Wine. Myself, Paige Donner, and the rest of the team look forward to seeing you again here for the next episode of Paris, Good Food and Wine.
Because it's oh so good.